Okay, welcome everyone to the Fleet Manager webinar. We gave everyone a few minutes to log on to the Keep Truckin' YouTube channel. We did get some feedback that people were coming in late, so we wanted to give everyone a few more minutes to log on to join today's webinar. We are very excited to review the new feature releases for Q1. My name is Chelsea Kendrick. I am a onboarding project manager here at Keep Truckin' and part of the customer success team. And we are so excited and very fortunate to be able to have these weekly webinars with you guys to make sure that you guys are up to date on all of the new news, changes, and updates that we have going on with our Keep Truckin' application, our dashboard, and anything going on in the FMCSA realm. All right, so let's get started. Okay, on today's agenda, we have 4 big new feature releases that we want to review. We have the short haul cycle that we have implemented this quarter. So for all of you drivers out there that are either local or within the 100 air mile or 150 air mile radius, you can now utilize this cycle. We have improved location history for our vehicles, and we have upgraded reports and vehicle inspection prompts. Okay, so the first one we're going to review is the short haul cycle. We now support the HOS rules for drivers that fall under the 100 or the 150 air mile exemption. Previously, we did not support this, and we advised all of the fleet managers to have their drivers use the other cycle and just annotate the log. But now you can go into your driver's profile, click Edit Profile, and you can go to their cycle and you can choose the USA short haul cycle. And for those of you who allow your drivers to manage their own cycles, they can go into their app. They can click on the 3 bars at the top right-hand corner and click on Settings. And you'll click on Cycle Rules, and there they can choose the US short haul cycle. So the differences are on the log graph itself. Prior to this cycle, it had all 4 duty statuses. So that was sleeper berth, on duty, off duty, and driving. Now for the short haul cycle, we only have the 3 special line log graph. So basically it just negates the sleeper berth. So they'll have on duty, off duty, and driving. For those who are driving under the 100 air mile exception, if you go over your daily shift time of 12 hours, it will automatically switch you to your secondary cycle. So make sure that you have something selected prior to your driving. That way you will never be in violation. And something to note here is if you go over the 12-hour shift limit, it will switch you to that secondary cycle, but then the next day, the driver will have to go back in his settings and select the USA short cycle again so that the next day they start fresh. And we also want to make a point here that this short haul cycle does not track the location or the miles driven out from the home terminal. So that is something that you guys have to track on your own and calculate on your own and just keep note of it. So Again, this is only going to manage the time frames of the drive time and the shift time. You're still responsible for knowing if you are going out of that 100 or 150 air mile exception. Okay, so then on the flip side, if you are a driver under the 150 air mile exemption, under your settings for the USA short cycle for 150 air miles, it'll give you an option that'll say, let's see here, short haul exception. And so you can note if you are able to use that 16-hour short haul exception to extend their hours. So when they're driving and they decide they need that exception, there's going to be a little plus sign on their app. They just click the plus sign, it'll show the 16-hour short haul exception, and they just enable it. And then, of course, when they look at their recap, so if they're on the main log screen and click on the clock with the 3 bars, it'll show them the cycle for that day. So it's going to show them their 11 hours of drive time, their 12-hour shift time, and then if they are required to take a 30-minute break, which again you can pre-select in the settings, it'll show them how much time they have. So their 8 hours will start counting down of when they have to take a 30-minute break. Okay, so here's an example of that short haul cycle that we were just referring to. So I put 2 screens up here. One is in night mode and one is in day mode. It's a great tool to use for drivers who drive night and day. It's a little easier on the eyes. So when a driver is approaching his short haul limit, it will give him this notification in red. And again, you can check off when you want your driver to get that notification. We have different increments. You can get it at an hour, you can get it at 30 minutes, or you can get it at 15 minutes. And then once you reach your limit for that short haul cycle, it will say short haul limit reached, switching to secondary cycle. So again, just to kind of give you an idea of how it works. Okay, we're going to move on to the next feature that we improved this quarter, which I was very excited about, and I know a lot of you out there are really enjoying this now and getting a lot more data than previously, which is always our goal and hope to give you guys a bigger view of what's going on with your drivers and your vehicles out there. So our improved location history has a ton of new features. It now shows a continuous connected trail of location points instead of disjoint points. So before it would just show like a dot and then another dot, and you would have to click on that dot to see what was happening and where they were going. Whereas now, the trail, you can just follow along the trail and see exactly what they did at a bird's eye view. The location points on the map use different icons that indicate different things, and the colors show more details. So for instance, if you're driving, the line will be green. If your vehicle is idling, it'll be in blue. And if the vehicle is turned off or stationary, it will be gray. We also included a timeline slider. So you can just grab the icon on the timeline slider and drag it, and you can see the location card will update as you drag it over to see exactly the timestamp of what time it was, where the vehicle was going, or what direction the vehicle was going, the speed, and the driver. And the way we get that information, or the way it's collected for your location history, is we are getting a satellite update every 30 minutes when the vehicle engine is off. So every 30 minutes, we will get a notification or an update from our GPS satellite that'll let us know where the vehicle location is. If the vehicle is in idling, it'll happen every 5 minutes. And then, of course, when you're moving or when the vehicle is in motion or in drive, it will update every 30 seconds. Or whenever there is a change or drastic change in the driving behavior. So bearing, vehicle speed, a hard brake, anything of that nature will give you a nice curve view of how the driver is driving the vehicle. Previously, we only would get notifications when the vehicle was in motion, and that was every minute. So this is going to give you a lot more information and data of the driving behavior. And again, just to make a note, and I'll show this on the next slide, although the points are collected every 30 minutes, 5 minutes, or 30 seconds, they're going to show as connected on the timeline. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Here you can see for the vehicle location history, it's going to give you this straight line here at the bottom. Actually, this might be a good idea to show you on the actual dashboard. Let's just go ahead and switch over. Okay, so you've selected your vehicle and the date, and now you can see this continuous trail. And you'll see these little green arrows indicating that the vehicle was in motion and the direction of the vehicle. So if you click on those arrows, it's going to give you your time card. It's going to give you the timestamp, the driver, the location, and the direction. And then it's going to also give you the speed. And again, you can come down to the time line slider down here, grab this little icon, and you can just click and hold, and you can pull it and see the entire trip that this driver has made. And you can see that the time card is updating as I move it. So this is really great. And I think it's helping you guys understand the routes more, especially if they're going back and forth on the same road. I know it can get confusing. So hopefully this will give you guys a lot more clarity. And also, this is just something really great to have on hand because sometimes, as an example, someone will claim that this driver was in an accident or at a certain location that caused an issue. And you can go back to your location history and pull up exactly where that vehicle was at the exact time, who was driving, and all that information, and verify for yourself what was happening with your vehicle and your driver at that time. All right, so if you have any questions on our improved location history, please feel free to put the questions in the top right-hand corner. Okay, so now we have a very exciting update, which was our upgraded reports. So these reports are for if you're on the starter or plus subscription, these are available to you now. And I'm going to briefly go over them right here, and then I'll switch over to the dashboard so that you can go ahead and see what they look like. So first, we're going to go over driver details. And I know a lot of you have been praying for this report because previously you had to go in the admin tab, look at each driver profile individually to see certain details. Well, now you can pull up this report and you can see the usage of the mobile app, the ELD, and other data points such as license information and cycle rules. Let's actually go ahead and take a look at that really quick. So we're going to go ahead and go into reports, and we're going to click on driver details. So I'm just going to take a moment really quick to note that for those of you who are using our ELDs in ELD mode, make sure that you go into your driver profiles or into this driver's detail report and make sure that the license number is included in their profile. This is required by the for roadside inspections. So here you can see what groups they're in, if they're enabled, their activity, their most recent vehicle that they've connected to, and their last drive time. So I think a lot of you will enjoy this report and utilize it quite often. The next report we have is the driver workload. So this was something that was asked to tell you the total hours and miles driven by your drivers in a given duration. So it's essentially useful for time cards. Let's go ahead and take a peek at that one. So driver workload. It's going to give us a summary of all their different duty statuses, but at the very end, this is the one I think you guys have been most looking for, which is hours worked. Hours worked includes the drive time and the on-duty time. And then, of course, the distance driven. Okay, and then the other one is vehicle details and ELD details. These are the other two reports. Again, instead of having to go into every single vehicle profile to see, who last drove the vehicle, who was the driver, where was the last location, and which ELD is connected to that vehicle or assigned to that vehicle, you can just go into that vehicle details report and see any information that you're looking for at a glance. And the same thing with the ELD details. Let's go ahead and take a look into that one. So for vehicles details, we're going to click on here. And again, it's going to show you all the necessary information that we have for this profile. And again, for those of you who are in ELD mode, this is just another side note that I'm taking out right now. Make sure that you have your VIN numbers included in your vehicle profiles and that you also have your license number included in your vehicle profiles. These are needed for roadside inspections and if you are to send the output file. Okay, and then for those of you who want to see the ELD details, we're just going to go under vehicles, click on the ELD details, and this is going to give you some information that I really think a lot of you will use, which is when it was last active, so when the ELDs are actually being used. You can go in here and say, okay, this vehicle hasn't been, paired with for this long, and I know I have a driver that's been driving this vehicle for the last week. I need to go, speak with him and make sure that he's using the ELD properly. And then something to note here, you have the firmware of the ELD and whether it has to be updated. So if you go in here and you ever, have an issue where a driver calls you and lets you know, they're having issues, this is a great starting point to know if your ELD needs to have a firmware update. And so those are all of our new reports. And then lastly, we just want to go over some reports that have been touched up. So we have added the MPG to our vehicle utilization report. And we have added a start, end time, and duration to the HOS violation report. And lastly, for the log detail report, it now shows hours worked, which again is on duty and driving time hours combined. All right, I'm going to go ahead and move along here so we can make sure that we get your answers or questions and answers at the end. All right, So this one is very exciting for those of you who are trying to get the kind of driver behavior or habits um, early for your drivers so they know what's expected of them on their day-to-day duties. So we have installed a vehicle inspection prompt that you can enable on your dashboard that requires your drivers to complete a pre-trip or a post-trip inspection when trying to pair with the ELD slash vehicle to before they can drive or before they can leave a vehicle. So in order to see this update or to enable your drivers to be prompted to do a vehicle inspection, the one note here is that they do have to have the updated app on their mobile device. So for iPhone users, it's 12.3, and for Android, it's 12.2. We are currently on I think it's 3.2 right now, or I'm sorry, 13.2. So I'm sure and most of your drivers are on this, but again, if you want to double check, you can always go to your drivers page under your admin and make sure that your drivers are at least on one of these uh, app versions. And then this prompt is shown to the driver when they go to the top right-hand corner where it says select vehicle or leave vehicle. And I'm going to show you a visual of that right now. So here's the example. When a driver goes to select a vehicle, it's going to say pre-trip inspection required. And then they just press continue to create the vehicle inspection. Something here to note, though, is if there was a pre-trip inspection done by a previous driver, when they go to select this vehicle, it's actually going to show them that previous driver's pre-trip inspection, and they can either approve it and make a note if the defects have been corrected or if they haven't been. And for those out there who would like to enable this vehicle inspection prompt for your drivers, if you're having difficulty making your drivers do this requirement, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do that quickly here on the admin tab. So again, this will have to be done by fleet administrators. And the way you do this is you go into your dash, you click on company on the left-hand side, and then click edit company information and go and scroll down to fleet settings. Here is where you're going to see that prompt. So it says require drivers to complete inspection before selecting a vehicle, and you can select yes. And another one here that says require drivers to complete an inspection before leaving the vehicle. So if they're required to do a post trip, you want to select this one as well. But again, these are interchangeable. You can make it, maybe they're only required to do a post trip or just a pre-trip. So that's something that you can use at your own discretion. And just as a side note, you might want to let your drivers know if you are going to select these settings. It is pretty tedious because if the driver is used to leaving the vehicle every time he stops, so whether he goes to a gas station or if he drops it off at the mechanic or whatnot, you might want to let them know that they just would want to stay connected or paired with the ELD the entire day, so they're not doing multiple trip inspections every time they leave the vehicle for the day. Okay, and that concludes all of our releases for today's webinar. I hope you're just as excited about those as we are. Again, if you have any questions, this would be a great time to start adding them to the top right-hand corner. And let's just get started with the Q&A. All right, the first question. Do you have a release date for the 15 mph threshold geofencing, and dash cam integration with the ELD. Of course, this is always, I feel like, the number one question for everyone out there. When are we going to get more feature releases? So we will be coming out with these 3 features. However, our main features right now that are actively being worked on are we're working on unidentified driving events from the dashboard and helping you manage those better, helping or improving our IFTA reporting, and our data output file from the dashboard. So we know many fleets are desiring these additional features, so just be rest assured that they are coming. I do not have an exact date as of right now, but as soon as we do have a time frame, we will make sure to share that with you. So one question I have here is, please cover how to put ELD in mechanic mode when we put the truck in a shop and the mechanic has to drive the truck. Great question. I always go over this on my kickoff calls with my fleet managers. So if you, the FMCSA and the mandate has allotted for a mechanic account, or what they call an exempt driver account. So if you have a mechanic that's going to be driving the vehicle around, or maybe exempt drivers like yard dogs, or just people that are there to move the trucks within your own yard, create an exempt driver account. And you do that just by going in, the admin tab up here, clicking on drivers and clicking on add driver. And in here, I would just put, mechanic account, and put in here username, whatever it is you want to make it, and a general password. And you can even put in here maybe like exempt, so that you know that this is an exempt driver. And the most important part of this is that you have to make sure that you enable this account for an ELD so that they can accept the drive time. And you have to log into the KT app as this mechanic account to accept the drive time. So you have kind of 2 options. You can either, if you have the same mechanic or in-house mechanic, you can have them download the app and connect to the vehicle to make sure that drive time is automatically recorded onto that account. Or you can have the driver or the mechanic, drive the vehicle, and then you as a fleet manager can go in and assign those driving events to the mechanic account. But then you'll just have to note that you'll have to add those or accept those driving edits, or those log edits, on the KT app. So you would log in to the KT app as that mechanic and accept it, and maybe just make an annotation that you're managing the logs on your end. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next question. If an ELD is to fail and the driver continues to drive, is there any way to edit/update the electronic log later, or does the driver need to complete a paper log? That is a great question as well. So first off, I'm going to just go ahead and show you guys a little tool. I'm going to go ahead and click on that little question mark that you just saw on my bottom right-hand corner of my dashboard. Go ahead and click on it and click See All Articles. It's going to take you to our Keep Trucking Learning Center, where it has all of our tutorials. And I'm just going to go ahead and click on Malfunction. Here it's going to give me an article on ELD Malfunction Manual. And you can click on this PDF to get the exact instructions on what you're supposed to do in case of an ELD malfunction. Again, I'm just going to show where you can pull this if you ever need this for you or your drivers, because you are supposed to keep a copy of this in your vehicle. So to answer the first question, yes, a driver can continue to drive and accept the ELD driving events at a later time. Think of it this way. Your driver can't connect to the ELD on his mobile app. But if the ELD is still connected to the vehicle, it's still going to be recording that drive time, vehicle diagnostics, location, and it's just going to hold it on the ELD until it's paired with a device, and it'll transfer that information onto the driver's log if they accept it. So in the case that this happens, have them, you can switch, well, first of all, you should have them call support. And if they've called support and they're looking into it or escalating the issue, you can enable that driver for manual drive time, make a note that there is an ELD malfunction and that this is being looked into. The second part of that question was, does the driver need to complete a paper log? You are more than welcome to to allow your driver to do a paper log as a backup. However, I would say that you can just enable them for manual drive and have them log their day that way. That way, it's still on the app and you can have all that information in one place. Okay, so the next question I have here is, our drivers are salaried and work infrequently. Are they required to log into the ELD every day, even when they are waiting to be dispatched? Okay, so to answer this question, I think it really just depends on the requirements that you have per the FMCSA rules. If your drivers are paid salary and aren't required to use the ELD, they don't have to be logged in if they're waiting for dispatch. So at the end of their workday, they can log out of the app and it'll just keep them as off duty if that's the last duty status they've selected. And that's really up to you guys. If you want them to show that they're on duty while waiting to be dispatched, that would be kind of your own company preferences of how you're going to manage your driver's hours. But if they're on the normal, HOS, 78-day cycle or, any of those regular cycles, they do have to be showing as on duty while waiting, for their load or something of that nature. Okay, the fifth question we have here is, are there any problems with the lag between the driver's app and the dashboard on my PC? I think this is a question regarding the minute-by-minute updates. And this is a great question. So let me back up a few steps here. The ELD is pinging the satellite every 30 seconds if the vehicle's in motion, every 5 minutes if the vehicle's idling, and every 30 minutes if the vehicle has stopped. Stationary. However, you won't get those notifications unless the ELD is paired with the driver's mobile device that has cellular service or Wi-Fi. So, for instance, if your driver is in a location that has poor internet or cellular service, your vehicle will go dark for a period of time. But as soon as they come into a place or a location that has cellular service, it'll repopulate that entire history. So you will have all that information. But just know that if your driver turns off the cellular service on their phone or their mobile device, or if they have a tablet that doesn't have cellular service, then you won't get this minute by minute or second by second update on your dashboard. So there are variables that will depend on what you're going to see on your dashboard. So that's something to be in communication with your drivers and their settings so that you can see the most optimal information at that time. Okay, our next question here is FM's talking about discrepancies between GPS and dash and actual locations of the drivers. Okay, so something to note here, if you think you're seeing discrepancies between the GPS location on the dash and the actual location of the drivers, one of the questions I've been getting lately is in the locations, it's not giving the exact location of the driver. It's giving like this interesting time frame. So let me just show you really quick what that looks like. Let me click on here. Okay, so here it's showing 17.7 miles, or sorry, 19.7 miles southeast of Winston-Salem, North Carolina. This is so people have called me and said that they're not in Winston-Salem. They're actually whatever that exact location they're in. You're going to get this location status because that's how how the mandate has stated all ELD providers reflect the location. So it's going to show you the location to the nearest city that has a population of 5,000 or more. So this location is actually the most accurate that you can have. But if you have any questions about the locations, it's worth mentioning how you can tell if a driver has unplugged an ELD or if it is the internet. So there could be a couple issue with why you're not getting those accurate GPS locations. A, is the driver connecting to the ELD? B, do they have their cellular service on? And C, are you getting this correct location right here, or is it something that the driver is inputting themselves on an off-duty or a non-driving event? Okay, next question. I have a team. Both of them are using the ELD from their iPhone through Bluetooth. They are complaining that the program may switch the status and even the drivers. Can you advise on some solutions? I can most definitely advise on some solutions here. So I don't have the app available to show on my screen here, so I do apologize. So just follow along with me the best you can. So let's say you have driver A in who is the first driver, right? So he's in the driver's seat. What he's going to want to do is go onto his app and select the vehicle and pair with the ELD first. So that all the driving events from that driver are going on to driver A's log. Driver B, who is in the passenger seat or maybe in sleeper berth, just needs to simply go on to his driving status, select the correct duty status, and that's all they have to do. When they are ready to switch, the driver A will have to leave vehicle, and then driver B will select the vehicle, and the first driver will have to select the appropriate duty status. Now that does make that makes sense for most people. However, I have heard that team drivers are sharing a mobile device to log their hours, and I do understand the reasoning behind this. You have one tablet per vehicle, but it does get cumbersome for your drivers. And the reason for this is driver A the passenger driver will have to log into the app, mark their duty status, log out. The driver A will have to log in, connect to or pair with the ELD, drive, and then when they're done with their driving event, leave vehicle, change duty status, log out. Driver B will then log in, pair with the device, and then drive. So you can see how it does get a little cumbersome. Like I said, if you are sharing a tablet or sharing a mobile device for team drivers. So the best advice that I can give for team drivers is to, if you're using separate mobile devices, make sure you leave the vehicle and make sure that the appropriate driver is paired with the ELD prior to the driving event. And then if you're using one mobile device, make sure that you are just doing everything, or the passenger driver is marking their duty status first, logging out, and then allowing the driving uh, or the driver who's going to be driving be primarily on the account or logged into the app. All right. If you guys have any, again, questions about that, please feel free to put the questions in the comment box or call our support for maybe a little bit or support on that one topic. We are planning to have a tutorial on our support page for this coming to you soon. Okay, number 8. How often does the driver need to select a vehicle, or is it one and done? That is a great question. When a driver selects a vehicle, it does have programming built in to remember that vehicle. So, for instance, I have if your driver, drives the same vehicle every day, once he's connected to that vehicle, it will remember it. However, that doesn't mean he can just get into the vehicle or hop into the vehicle and start driving. They do have to make sure when they get into the vehicle that the app is open and not completely turned off in their mobile device, and just take a quick look at the main log screen to make sure that it's connected successfully. It should automatically happen, but again, we want to make sure that drivers are getting into healthy habits when getting into their vehicle and driving. The last thing you want to do is them think they're automatically paired and the Keep Truckin' app maybe wasn't open, and then they have to assign these UDEs. Number 9, or the next question, is there a link on how to create inspection reports? Okay. So if you do want to learn how to create these inspection reports, you can, of course, go to our KT Learning Center and just type in inspection. And it's actually the first article that comes up is going to be create an inspection report. And it will, this is for drivers. It'll show you how to create an inspection report for drivers. If you want to learn how to create one, here it is. Create an inspection report for fleet admins. So here it'll give you the step-by-step instructions on how to create an inspection form for your drivers to use every day on their app. Okay. Another question is, will there be a Fleet Manager mobile app in the future? Wow, you guys are just hitting all the, everything we want to talk about here. The answer is yes. We completely have realized, especially now that we have a lot of fleets now with us and not just our drivers using the apps, that this is something completely necessary. A lot of our fleet managers and safety managers we know are not just sitting in the office next to on their computer monitors. So this is something we are planning to add to our roadmap. So please hold tight. We will have this available in the future at some point in time. We just don't have a specific date right now. But great question. And yes, we realize that it is a necessity and would be such a great feature for you guys. Okay. The next question we have here. Will Keep Trucking ever limit the time a driver can be on YardMove/PC? Seeing drivers forget to go out of YardMove, and we got our first violation. All right. Yeah, there is a lot of questions concerning yard moves and personal conveyance. And to be quite honest with you folks, the reason that is because the FMCSA has pretty broad guidelines for what personal conveyance and what yard move are. So if you ever have, questions regarding this, or well, to answer the question is, will we ever have driving limits? If the FMCSA puts driving limits on that, we definitely can or will integrate that into our system. If it's something that you guys are just requesting that you guys want to use on your own, it does get pretty dicey because uh, there are no limits on these these special driving duty statuses. So if this is something that you're interested in, please email support and let them know that you would like to see this in the future. And because we are always taking product requests from our customers to see how we can improve our system, and if we can implement it in a way that makes sense and that is legal, of course we would love to do that for you guys. Okay. The It looks like we have maybe a few other questions that are coming in here. Um, the one thing that I do want to note, we are running out of time here. We only have about a four minutes left, and this isn't just in regards to, April 1st is right around the corner, and I know a lot of a lot of the fleets out there are gearing up for this date to prepare your drivers for the, April 1st hard enforcement or date. And one thing that I do want to note to you guys is that we are anticipating a lot of drivers logging into the Keep Trucking application on April 1st. Similar to December 18th, we had thousands and thousands of drivers log in at the same time. So just to, we are taking a preemptive steps to make sure everything runs smoothly that day. However, it would be an excellent note or message to send to all of your drivers to be logged into the Keep Trucking application prior to April 1st. That way, when they come in on April 1st or even April 2nd, they're already logged in and they can just, connect and pair with the ELD easily. And there won't be any issues if something happens where we have thousands of people log in at the same time and experience an issue connecting or logging in, because it does require connecting to the internet and utilizing our servers at that moment. So again, just a little heads up, if you can send a message out or let your drivers know just for that date, it might be a good idea to go ahead and stay logged in. All right, I think that is all the time we have left for our webinar for today. I do want to make a quick note that we are continuing to have these webinars for the next quarter. So you will be seeing emails coming your way for different topics that we think will be really important. Just to name a few, I will be hopefully going over how to put in a data queue. We will be talking about best ways to manage your drivers on the dashboard. I will be reviewing in more detail what to do in the case of an ELD malfunction from a driver's standpoint and a fleet manager standpoint. So lots of good stuff to come. So I hope you have a great rest of your day. And if you do have any questions that weren't answered, please email us at support.keeptruckin.com is where you can go to our support center, or email us at support@keeptruckin.com, or call our support line if you have any questions. We're there and available 24/7. All right, have a great day. Thanks, guys.